to yet another Doodly Pro tutorial. This time we're going to be taking a look at how to create a simple explosion inside of 3D Studio Max. And what better object to explode than this little guy right here. Now for this tutorial you don't have to use the same model I did. Any other object you decide to use will work fine, and you'll still be able to follow along with this tutorial seamlessly. But if you'd like to download this model like I have, hop on over to turbosquid.com. There's all sorts of 3D models you can download here. But today I'm going to look for my creeper, and the one I am using is this creeper right here. This is of course a free download. It comes in blue and it's pre-rigged for you. It's got a little texture issue going on here, but that is not a problem at all. So if you'd like, you can go ahead and pause this video and download this 3D model. And I'll be sure to include this link in my video. Now that we have our model ready, let's make some things explode. So I'm just going to start fresh and reset my scene. And I'll just bring up our creeper file. Open. Put that in there. Maximize the viewport. Alright, it looks like he imported without his textures, so open up my material editor and find the texture. Drag it on one of our spheres. And then drag it on top of him. Just the object. And he's got no face. Or he's backwards. Now when I first tried to import this, I noticed a problem with the textures. You can see when you render it's not clear, it's all blurry. But that's an easy fix. All we need to do is go into our render setup, go to our render tab, and uncheck the box that says filter maps. Then when we render, and he'll be back to his blocky self again. Now that we have our model imported and everything's looking good, the next logical step would be to destroy it. So we're going to move over to our space warps, and under the space warps tab we're going to select geometry / deformable. That's going to give us the bomb option, which does exactly what it sounds like. So I'll just place it next to our creeper here. Next we need to link the creeper to our bomb, but we're not going to be using the typical select and link. We're going to be using the bind to space warp. Make sure we select our bomb first, then drag on top of our creeper. It'll flash, showing us that it was selected. Now, if we scrub forward in the timeline, you'll see it explodes. It blows the skin clean off his bones. That is horrific. Let's do ourselves a favor and get rid of these bone objects. I'm just going to go into display settings and turn off bone objects. Alright. Back to the create tab. There we go. This little guy's literally being blown away by this tutorial. Shut up. Now one cool thing about this bomb is that we can move it around and our geometry will react to it wherever it's placed. So here we can get it to blow forward, backwards, but for now we're just going to put it sort of in the middle and behind. Actually, yeah, right there. Look good. Pretty much in the middle. Excellent. So let's take a look at some of the bomb settings. With our bomb selected, we can go up to the Modify tab. And here's all our bomb parameters. We have strength, which does exactly what it sounds like. We'll leave it at like 1 for now. Gravity's fine. We do want to add a bit of chaos, because as far as I know, nothing explodes perfectly. And then the other thing we are missing is spin. So let's have a look. It's looking good. One final thing I want to tweak is the fragment size. This is completely up to you on whatever type of explosion you want. But I'm going to make bigger chunks. I especially want to see his little head intact, because that's just funny. So we got a piece flying right past the camera here. Now one thing I forgot to mention with the texture is if you take notice of this piece right here, when we render, you can only see the textured side and not the back side. That's just because we need to go into our material editor and under the creeper's texture, select two-sided. And now when we render, you'll see both sides. And you do that so you don't have pieces appearing and reappearing when they're spinning around. Oh, and another thing I wanted to point out in the bomb parameters is the detonation. Right now it is set to frame number 5 when it explodes. So you see we go up to 5, and after that, and if you want some time to animate this guy walking on the frame or something in the beginning, you just set your detonation to a different number. So let's go to 50. And we'll scroll, we're fine at 49, 50, he's gone. Perfect. Now I'm just going to hit Control-C on the keyboard to create myself a camera because I like that view. And hit P on the keyboard to go back to perspective. Alright, now that we've sufficiently blown up our object, let's go back and take a look at the test animation to see what else we need to do. Alright, so let's go back here and... Whoa. It's like program within a program. It's like The Matrix and Inception put together. Man, it's a great movie idea. I should probably write this down. Maybe we can find Rick Moranis. Now, what was I talking about? Explosions. So here in our test animation, you'll notice two things. One, the smoke and the fire. And two, you see that he expands right before he explodes. So that's what we're going to be looking at next. First things first, let's work on making him expand. Now, this is actually pretty easy. All we want to do is select our creeper's skin, not the bomb or any of its bones, just the creeper model. And then we're going to make sure we're in our Modify tab and drop down our modifier list. And you want to look for Spherify. Go ahead and click that. And as soon as you select Spherify, our character immediately balloons up and looks like he just ate Jabba the Hutt. So that's a little too much. I guess you can go with that much if you want. But I just expanded him about 30. That's probably good. And what we need to do is animate this going from 0 up to however much you want him to expand. So we'll make sure our key filters are set to all so that we can animate our percent parameters. I'm going to turn on set key. And starting around frame 45, since our explosion happens at frame 50, I'm going to set a key for 0 and then move to 50. And you know what? Let's go overkill. That looks good. And set another key. Now, you know what? That might be a little too much. We'll keep them small. Alright, we've made a creeper expand and explode. Now all that's left is fire and brimstone. Now for our third and final step, we're going to want to go back to the Create tab, and then instead of space warps, we're going to want helpers. So under helpers, we're going to drop down and select atmospheric apparatus. And then we're going to select the sphere gizmo. And what we're going to do to sphere gizmo is click in the center of the creeper and drag out this sphere. And I'll probably move it up just a tad, since it seems like he's exploding from the center. And now with our sphere selected, we're going to want to go to the Modify tab and add a fire effect. It's okay. So that's going to give us our fire effect down here. Now all we need to do is set it up to look like an explosion. So we're going to hit Setup. Scroll down and we want a fireball, yes, and we want it to explode. And for the explosion, we want it to start at, I'm guessing, 49. Okay. Now we'll hit the render. Nothing. And we want to see it right there. That looks pretty good. So the next step is to get this thing to look right. So we want to see this thing fully exploded. So we're going to move forward to frame 60 where the fireball will be pretty fiery. And we're going to take a look at some of our parameters here. So the first thing I do is I put the flame detail up to 10. This will slow down your render time, but it'll make your fireball look a little less cheesy. And then we also want to change the flame size to about, let's see what that looks like. That's getting there. You don't want it too small because you'll get this weird Halo 1 looking grenade thing. So I'm going to leave it probably about 10. That's getting there. And then also I'm going to bump the density up to 30. There we go. And then of course that explosion is not nearly big enough, so all we need to do to make the explosion bigger is to scale up our sphere gizmo. Let's take a render of that. Oh, perfect. So now we've got our explosion looking somewhat like a normal fireball. You can also see that it fades to smoke a few frames later. All that's left to do is add a tad bit of flavor, and that's to throw in an Omni light, just to light up our pieces as if there was really an explosion happening. So we have our little Omni light in the scene, and we want to go to the Modify tab and change its color to an orangish, match the explosion. Something like that's probably fine. And I'm going to turn the brightness way up, not that far up. 3 is fine. Let's take a render of that. And as you can see, our pieces have this yellow glow, which is exactly what we want. The only problem is we don't want that yellow glow to happen the whole time. We want it to animate on and off. So the easy way to do that is to go to frame 50, turn on our set key, and set our intensity multiplier down to 0. Set a key, move up the frame 60 and set it back to 3. Set a key. Doesn't look like it took. So we'll just move it back to 3. Set key. There we go, worked that time. And let's see, where does it die off? There, it's starting to die off. Around frame 70, we'll put it back to 0. Set another key. Look at our multiplier here and make sure animation took. Now, last thing I'm going to do for lights is drop in a skylight just to give our whole scene a light. And I'm going to turn the cast shadows on, turn the raise per sample down to 10. That way when our Omni light is not on, we still have light in our scene. Now to render this animation out, all we're going to do is go to our render setup. In the common tab, we have active time segment. Set whatever size you want. The default is 640 by 40, which is a 4:3 video with square pixels. That's fine for now. And we're going to choose where to save. I'm just going to send it to this test render folder that I set up. Go ahead and make it an AVI and just call it Explosion Creeper. Hit save. And it's going to ask us what compression to use. MJPEG compressor is fine at 100% quality. And we'll just wait for this guy to render. Now all that's left to do is, if you want to, you can add in some sound effects and the flashes, maybe some camera shake, in whatever video editing program you prefer. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and as always, if you'd like to see more of these awesome tutorials, you can hop on over to youtube.com/doodlypro and check out all the other cool 3D tutorials we've got, not to mention we're constantly adding more. Once again, thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll